Club. Good afternoon, Club.
Say it again, Shannon. Say it again.
Hello, Club. Hello, Shannon. Hello, Peter Turner. It's so nice to see you. Oh, my goodness. So, welcome to the Oakland Rotary Club. I know we have a full house and we're starting a little early, so I'm going to put up with a little of your chatter, but let's pull it together because we have a very exciting meeting today. Shh. I'm going to ring the bell for starting the meeting. All right. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Oakland. We are the third oldest Rotary Club in the world. There are over 32,000 Rotary clubs around the world in over 200 countries, and we're very proud to be one of the first that started on the West Coast. So we would like to welcome our guests and our visiting Rotarians. Let's start with visiting Rotarians, which would be a very important Rotarian traveling quite a distance. So Joe, do you want to introduce our visiting Rotarian? Shh.
So I'd like to introduce two visiting Rotarians if I can, and I'm going to go a little out of order, Ken. I'd like to introduce the current president of the Delta Antioch Club, my better half, Martha Gorelka.
Yay, Martha.
And I would like to introduce the president-elect of the Fukuoka, Japan Rotary Club, Ken Razujuchi.
Welcome, Ken. We're going to hear more from Ken in a little bit. Welcome, sir. And we'll exchange banners in a little bit. All right, now for guests.
Mary's got something going. Hold on, Mary.
Thank you. Hi, Mary Jiang. My occupation is tax and financial planning, and I have several guests with me today. I'd like to introduce Jessica Chan, who's been a recurring visitor, and from Metropolitan Bank, and then her big boss, Henry, from Metropolitan Bank, president of Metro Bank, and then we got the visitor, Sydney Marr, who's a vice president of Metro Bank. They're all here to listen to Mary Daly today. And I think,
Yeah, good job, Mary. Good
Thank
job.
you, Mary. Welcome.
Keith.
President Shannon, President-elect Joe, it is my honor today to introduce my guest, the District Attorney of Alameda County, Ursula Jones-Dixon.
Woo! Thank you. Welcome.
Hello there. I'm Anna Marie, and I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Kira Pascoe. Kira is with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation. She's head of development, and she's going to be a more familiar face to Rotary. Hint, hint.
Yes, and she's been coming to our volunteer events, so nice to see you. Nice to see you again. Do we have any other guests?
Going once. Okay.
Casey. And
Hi, Dave Cannon here. I'd like to introduce my better half, Joan Cannon. Welcome.
welcome. Casey.
Casey, okay. Oh, hi.
I too brought my better half. This is my husband, Galen Wilson.
Hello, welcome. And David Stein has a guest.
Okay, of course. Can anyone have him next to where we're standing? Or where is David Stein? What are we? David Stein's over there.
I'm up here. I'm up here. I'm good. You can slow down. So I'd like to introduce Stephen DeLay. Stephen, where are you? I saw you there in the back. He is the Vice President and Regional Executive with the San Francisco Federal Reserve.
Welcome.
That's a pretty good job. And we have a guest of the Federal Reserve, Linda Renteria, who is the COO of Casa Sanchez. Linda, where are you? Thank you for joining us. And I'm not going to introduce them all by name, but if the folks from the Federal Reserve would just kind of wave. They've been phenomenal helping set up this program. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Wonderful. Now, if I can ask everybody to please rise. I would like to take this time to actually, for those of you who would like to say the Pledge of Allegiance today. So with that, I will start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you could remain standing for a moment. We have a special recognition of our holiday that we just passed to recognize and honor our veterans. And with that, I would like to invite my friend Mac to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today we pause to honor the men and women of the United States Armed Forces who gave their lives in service of our nation. Their sacrifice made it possible for us to live in freedom and safety. Our duty is to remember them, not just today, but every day. I invite you to observe a moment of silence at this time. Let us reflect on their courage, their duty, and the price they paid. Thank you very much. Want me to do the thought? Yeah, go ahead. While I still have the mic, I'd like to share with you the thought of the day. The strength of our economy and our society is not just measured in GDP, but in the lives we uplift and the opportunities we expand. As we welcome Dr. Mary C. Daly, President and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, it's worth remembering that real economic progress isn't abstract, it's deeply human. It shows up when families afford stability, students find pathways to education, and small businesses gain access to capital. Leadership in economics, like leadership in the Rotary, isn't about control, it's about stewardship. It's the quiet courage to ask how we grow and who gets to grow with us. Let's carry that mindset forward in our work, in our service, and in our communities. Thank you very much.
Can you send it to me so I can make sure it's in the Thank you very much, Mac. All right, I would like to share a couple of things about what we've been doing. I've seen all of you so many times recently. What does Oakland Rotary do in the community? We just spent a day at the Alameda Food Bank. How many of you went to the Alameda Food Bank? Thank you so much, and I want to appreciate Teresa and Allison Bliss for your leadership in getting a ton of people to the Alameda Food Bank. Bravo. And then yesterday, we had quite the show. How many of you have ever been to the Lodestar School? How many went yesterday? We had 30 Rotarians attend Career Day. And Catherine Coleman, where's Catherine? Catherine! Is she here? She's probably exhausted from yesterday. Catherine Coleman wrestled up all of us to go and speak to a public school, a charter school in our area in East Oakland, 150th east of East 14th International. Yeah. No, you're shaking your head. And it's a K through 12 school, 790 students, and we talked to almost all of them, I think, for Career Day, and we had all of our fabulous Rotarians participate, and John Clausen, is he here? John Clausen, what were you doing? 400 hot corn dogs were served free to the kids. And I think Daniel Chang had something to say. Daniel?
I'd like to ring the bell for Catherine Coleman. to have 31 Rotarians, that's the biggest outcome I ever saw in my life. So I'll ring the bell for her. And I want to thank John Clausen, who worked till 2:30 and made 450 corn dogs.
Awesome. And for the guests, ringing the bell is a $100 contribution to our Oakland Rotary Endowment, and so we really appreciate that. Now, we also give away a lot of our fabulous... Oh, yes, please, Carrie. Carrie, we have another contribution.
I want to ring the bell for John Clausen and those corn dogs.
They were good. Thank you, John. Thank you for that contribution, Carrie. Wonderful. Actually, there was another bell ringer. I think it was Mike Malone. Mike Malone just got back from riding his bike across Spain, 500 miles, and a month trip, and he's home safely, and he'd like to ring the bell.
Thank you, President Shannon. I'd like to ring the bell for Mark Rosen. In the true spirit of better friendships, Mark followed me on my ride on the Camino de Santiago across north central Spain through my iPhone with the Find My app, and was concerned whenever I was going off course, getting lost, and it was just really comforting to have that. So I ring the bell in Mark Rosen's honor.
Awesome. We do have a cycling fellowship, and to have the support of another person in country watch you all the way through Spain was really a gift. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so now the other amounts of, let's see where we are. Oakland Promise. I need Fred and Steve. We have an amazing scholarship program in Oakland. We give away lots of money to students, and with that, I'd like to give the mic to Steve to distribute a fairly large check.
Well, thank you, President Shannon, and greetings all the Rotarians and guests, lots of guests today. So today, I want to update you on the work that the Scholarship Committee does. And the first thing I want to say is our committee is just part of a large group of committees that support youth, all the way from Kinder Prep and Enterprise Institute, and then we do the final bit of sending kids off to college. So we do a whole lot for the youth in Oakland. And okay. And the other thing we do is we give out, we assign a mentor, we have a mentor for each of the students that we give scholarships to. And so I want to say a shout out to all the mentors. Over the last 9 years, we've had 18 of you that have done mentoring. So I really appreciate it. And so, will I ring the bell for the mentors?
Sure, go ahead. Any mentors stand up, please? We'll give you
Thank you. Okay. So we do this in partnership with Oakland Promise, which you hopefully see up there. And so they get the applicants and screen them, and then they send us a group, and then we choose, we interview kids and choose them. And this year we're giving away 5 scholarships. Scholarships are $16,000 over the 4 years, so $4,000 a year to the kids. Anyway, okay, so now for the good part. I got the next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Have any slides?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Well, what I wanted to show you, it was a pie chart, and it shows how many students we've funded, which is 58.
I never got
in the
any
last
slides.
9 years, with more in the past.
Yeah, no slides.
And of those 58, the vast majority, so it'd be 58 minus, I don't know, so it'd be 46 of them are either in school or have graduated over the last 4 years. And then we've got, it's actually even better than that. We've only had 4 that drop out, and then we've had 8 that I just didn't get information on, which I'm working on. But we'll probably have, we're on the order of 90-95% of our kids, and that's way beyond what any college ever graduates. So now we do get the great kids. On the other hand, we do get them through. So Okay, now for the really good part, we've got 3 of them here, 4. Anyway, I want to have them stand up. These are our new scholarship recipients. So we have Evelyn Mendoza. She's going to be mentored by Marlene Sachs. We have Tony Q, who's going to be mentored by me. We have Jocelyn Ramirez, who's going to be mentored by Kathleen. And let's see, so did I get everybody? Yeah, that's 3. Evelyn, I'm sorry. Evelyn Ramirez is going to be mentored by Kathleen. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, anyway, we've got it down here. Sorry. Okay, anyway, so that's our students, and then 1 student couldn't make it. And then a representative of Oakland Promise, which is Lucina Prado, right? Prada. And she's come up to get us a check. The other thing I want to mention is Vesna Sot, who's one of our students, and he's now works for Oakland Promise, and he's here. So, okay.
This is a big check.
This is a big check. We have 2 checks, actually. So, yeah, in support of these students and some catching up to do, we've got, what, I can't read it, but 80,500, right? 86,500. Don't have my reading glasses. And then, and then just as a catch-up to straighten out some administration, another 4. So we're giving them, a pretty good darn check, huh?
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your help.
There you go. Thank you.
Over $90,000 in scholarships. I think we forget sometimes how much impact this club has and how many lives that we're improving or helping to improve their situations. So I'm always humbled by that. All right, another great thing that we do in Oakland Rotary is we introduce new humans to join the cause. So, yes, we're going to move me over. Great. So Merlin has a corporate membership. Hooray for corporate memberships. And he's going to introduce our 2 new members from the Port of Oakland.
So, President Shannon, members of Rotary, both online and in person. Today I have the pleasure of introducing the Port of Oakland as a new member of Rotary number 3. First, let me introduce Matt Davis. Matt started at the Port in 2004 and was appointed as the Chief Public Engagement Officer in 2023. Prior to the Port, Matt was a legislative assistant to a member of Congress. Matt is a native of the Bay Area and a graduate of Cal Berkeley. Interesting things about Matt. As a high school senior, he received a Rotary scholarship. And although he was an only child, he married Lucia, who is a Spaniard, who introduced him to her 58 relatives and dared him to remember them all. Matt surprised her by being able to name all 53 by memory. So, great. And as another little note, I didn't know this until I talked to Matt, that one of Matt's best friends is my neighbor. So next we'll introduce Christy. Christy McCanney. Christy is Executive Director of the Port of Oakland. She was appointed to the position on March 1st, 2025 by the Port Commissioners. She has a Bachelor's of Science from San Jose State in Aeronautics and a Master of Science in Civil Engineering from Cal Berkeley. 2 interesting facts about her. During her time in college, she held positions as an aircraft mechanic assistant and aircraft refueler at Nassau. She was the first woman to work there as a mechanic, and there was no female locker rooms. She worked as a volunteer in the control tower at the temporary airport NV-88, which only opens in August and September, otherwise known as the Black Rock Airport. On a busy day, this airport is among the 100 busiest airports in the country. I present to you the Port of Oakland.
Oakland welcomes 2 new members. Let's get this picture with David. Give it us a minute. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, wait. Welcome to the Oakland Rotary Club. We have, yes, sir. Oh, thank you. We have a gift for the both of you. That's somebody. We have your roster. We have some information. Your roster is actually to be on your phone. Does everybody know we have an app called Ignite that you should be downloading because your roster is no longer on Club Runner, it's on Ignite. So this is the instructions. A lot of people in the room need to borrow your instructions. So you have 250 new besties. Oh, yay. We have the 4-way test, which is our ethos that says, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So that is how we walk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you so much. All right, that's wonderful. Okay, so we had a little party before the meeting to recognize some members for the Rotary International Foundation. I'd like our chair and our co-chair and our friend Christine to come up, our Rotarian that helped pull this off today with Ruth, to come up and help us recognize some Paul Harris Fellows. So come on up. So the Rotary International Foundation, does anybody know how much money is in the foundation? Any guesses? 20 million? No billion, sorry. Come on. We have almost $400 million in the foundation that funds projects all over the world. And our club is one of the top 10 or top 20, Joe? We're in the top 20 clubs out of 32,000 clubs around the world in giving and projects and grants to the Rotary Foundation. And we are awesome. So when you give over $1,000, you join this club called the Paul Harris Foundation Club. Oh, we have Stephanie here too. You missed our rotate. We have a pin for you, Stephanie. So we gave out some pins this afternoon to people that have joined that are part of the Paul Harris Society. And with that, I want to hand it over to Christine.
Hello, and thank you, President Shannon. I would like to just take a moment to make sure that everybody who is in this room today that should get recognized for their Paul Harris membership does. So Stephanie, you can't escape me. Would you please come up? Just take a quick picture, hand it to her, take a quick picture. Okay. And then one thing I wanted to share with you guys, now that you have achieved your Paul Harris membership, the next phase is called the Paul Harris Society. And so what that means is that you're a member of Rotary, you've donated $1,000 to become a Paul Harris member, and now you want to give $1,000 every year to Rotary International. And with that, you can actually direct how your donation is spent. So we give you, there's a list of 8 different projects that are going on locally in the United States as well as internationally, and you can direct how your $1,000 supports or doesn't support a particular project. So that's a wonderful thing. If you want to get involved and really get your opinion voiced, become a Paul Harris Society member. How many people in this room have already committed to that journey? Raise your hands. Oh, wow, I'm preaching to the choir. All right, thank you so much. And you might notice, if you're a new member, that when you look at people's Paul Harris pens, they look different all the time. There's different stuff going on. And so what that represents is, in my case, I have the first year of recognition, which is my $1,000 membership participation pin right here. Some people are wearing pins with blue stones, and some people are wearing sapphires, and some people are wearing rubies, and some people have diamond-shaped major donor pins. Could that be our friend Ralph here on AV?
We have a new major donor, Ralph Sklar. Congratulations. Great. So we want to thank everybody and for all of their contributions to the foundation. We also have a very, very special Rotarian who's going to be our president next year, and also his wife, who is currently a president this year, and she will also be a president next year. And I'd like to welcome up Joe and Martha Goralka, please. And I have a slide that isn't happening. Oh my goodness, there it is. Hello. So let's read about this, Arch Clump Society. So in the middle of the year, Joe and Martha just dashed off on a plane, and they say, we have to go to Chicago, and we'll be back in a day and a half. And they went to Evanston, which is the headquarters of Rotary International, and they were welcomed by past President Jennifer Jones. They were honored on this, do you see this beautiful, hello, it was there, glass backlit display for the Arch Clump Society. These are for donations over $250,000. And our dearest and first time in the Oakland Rotary history, and probably in the Antioch Rotary history, were honored with their Arch Clump membership in that society. And we want to tell you that we're honored to know you. We are so appreciative of your generosity, and you've done so much for the foundation. You've chaired committees. You're going to be president next year. You're president, and you continue to be so generous with your funds and your energy. So I want to give a warm Oakland congratulations to our first ever Arch Clump Society recipients, Joe and Martha Goralka. So pretty amazing. So with that, part of the things that we do in the foundation, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, bell ringer.
Hello.
Hi, Daniel. We always stop for money.
I just want to recognize someone else, Steve Nichols.
Oh, Steve Nichols.
He's too humble, so I won't tell you how much he gave. But if you guys remember, right after COVID, we started the Feed the Hunger program. And Steve made a major donation to kickstart that program. And just this year, Steve made another big donation. So I am always humbled by people like Steve.
And Steve is also a major donor to the Rotary International Foundation. So he not only contributes to our endowment, but also to the foundation, and we're very grateful. Steve, see, you got to get recognized whether you want to or not. Joe, you have a guest, and we have a flag to exchange, and another reason why to give money to the foundation.
Thank you. So just quickly, I want to say that Martha and I are humbled to be among so many generous Rotarians of both their time, talent, and treasure. I will tell you that my first donation to the Rotary Foundation 42 years ago was $50. So it's a little like the old adage for your 401k. If you start early and do it often, it finally adds up. The other thing I'll tell you to help is if you marry well, It helps as well. If you add Martha and I's years in Rotary, that's 70 years. So in 70 years, it added up to a little bit. So konnichiwa, good afternoon, everybody. You know the city of Oakland has a sister club, a sister city in Fukuoka, and our club has a sister Rotary club in Fukuoka as well. And our club started a short-term student ambassador exchange in 1978. It's now a 47-year tradition, promoting peace together. Miss Samantha Taniguchi will head off to Fukuoka this July, and Miss Neko Sakurua from Fukuoka will join us this August. Joining us today is Ken Rizuji, a member of the Fukuoka Rotary Club. He is president and CEO of Honda Kiko, and he is also the incoming president for the year 25-26, Berlin's year. I hope I got those dates right. Ken has also been very instrumental in keeping that student exchange program going for those many years, just like our fellow Rotarian Peter Turner. And also like Peter, he has also been the chair of that student exchange in the past. Ken and his wife, Yumi, along with the Fukuoka Rotary Club and the Fukuoka West Rotary Club, treated Martha and I like royalty when we visited a year ago. So I'd ask you to give a resounding Oakland Rotary welcome to our fellow Rotarian, Ken Rizuji.
First of all, exchange of honor. Please sit down. Joe, thank you very much. May I make a little speech? And Joe and Martha came to Fukuoka just about a year ago, and we had such a wonderful time together. You know, you have a sister club in Fukuoka, Japan. Not Tokyo, not Kyoto, Osaka, it's a Fukuoka, Japan. Please remember that. There is too many tourists in Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto. You cannot take hotels over there. But Fukuoka, get a lot of goodies. So please remember, if you decide to come to Fukuoka, we're gonna take care of you. And Martin and I gonna be the same year president coming up, 2 years from now. And we're gonna be exciting doing something more together. And you know, this Oakland is very special for me. 1979, almost 46 years ago, I was washing dishes on Claremont Avenue and College. There's a restaurant called Yoshi's. The first language I remember was Spanish. There's a Spanish guy washing dishes together with me. And then after that, Yoshi was getting so busy because of you guys. You guys all came for tempura, sushi, yakitori, and we opened up the jazz club. And then now Yoshi moved to the Jack London Square, and they opened up the restaurant in San Francisco too. But that's where my origin, I started out Yoshi's Japanese restaurant 46 years ago. And I met my wife, Yumi, and she's not feeling well, so she's not here right now, but she used to go to the Mills College over here in Oakland. So this Oakland is very memorial spot for me. So I'm gonna promise you, and every one of you, we will keep coming back to Oakland every once in a while. So please come to Fukuoka, and please, we've been doing exchange student program together all the time, but let's do it more and more things together. Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're
Joe needs to give more money.
Joe's ringing the bell.
Janet, I'd like to read there for Ken and the Fukuoka Rotary Club. Thank you.
Thank you. And guess where we're taking him out to dinner tonight?
Yoshi's.
We are going to Yoshi's tonight and watch a club and have some sushi. All right, we're going to have one quick announcement and then we're going to bring on our speaker. We believe in building each other's businesses and building our endowment and doing great work in the community. Dave is giving us an opportunity to gather for business development and for getting to know one another after hours at a local Oakland restaurant. Where are we going?
We're going to Agave Uptown on June 3rd. It's a Tuesday from 5 to 7. So it's a business development mixer. Bring a guest. We're going to do something unique at this one, kind of combining both the incoming President Joe and Shannon. We're going to have people talk about new members, talk about their business and give them an introduction to the club. And we're also going to hear about Rotarians doing business with other Rotarians. So join us on the 3rd, and if you look on your table there, you can register right now, $20. The food's going to be incredible. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
The slide said the second. Don't listen to my slides. Look at the Eventbrite page, please. And, you know, I was in Rotary for about 20 years and nobody knew what I did for a living. And I had a Rotarian take me aside because I wasn't really doing very well. And he goes, you know, if you're not healthy, you're no good for the community and for yourself. So make sure you focus on your business so that you can give more later. And I took that to heart. And so business development is very important in this club. So with that, I think we are ready to start David Stein's introduction of our amazing speakers. So with that, the chair of our membership committee and our wonderful friend, past president, David Stein.
President Shannon, fellow Rotarians and guests, it's my great honor today to introduce the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, Mary C. Daly. She serves as the 12th Federal Reserve District in setting monetary policy. The district includes 9 western states, as well as the Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa, and Guam. The 12th district is the nation's largest by area and population, covering 1.3 million square miles and 60 million people. It's the largest and most diverse district in the Federal Reserve System. President Daly regularly travels through the district to hear firsthand how businesses and households are experiencing the economy. Her research focuses on employment and wage trends, economic growth, and economic shocks, and has advanced understanding of the Federal Reserve's maximum employment and inflation mandate. President Daly grew up in Missouri. When she was 15, she dropped out of high school and started working several jobs to help support her family. She went on to earn a GED and begin her career in economics. She holds a BA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, an MS degree from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and a PhD in economics from Syracuse University. President Daly joined the San Francisco Fed in 1996 and served as the Executive Vice President and Director of Research at the Fed before taking on the President and CEO role in 2018. President Daly, on her first day on the job, had a sign installed as you walk through the front door of the Federal Reserve Building in San Francisco. It reads, "Our work touches every American and countless global citizens." She has also served as an advisor to the Congressional Budget Office, the Social Security Administration, the Institute of Medicine, and the Library of Congress, and she has been a visiting professor at Cornell University and the University of California, Davis. President Daly lives in Oakland with her wife, Shelley. She brings her life experience to her work, remembering how critical economic opportunity is for all Americans. Our format today is going to be a Q&A format, and today's conversation with President Daly is being live streamed on the San Francisco Federal Reserve Channel and may also be picked up by Bloomberg News. Please give a warm Rotary welcome to San Francisco Federal Reserve President Mary Daly.
Thank you. Thank you for that nice introduction. Thank you for this. If you wonder, I moved to Oakland in 1996. I love Oakland. The day I came here, my wife and I moved here, and I said, we are home. So Oakland is my place. Thank you.
All right, hopefully we got both mics working now. Mary, I wanted to start with a little primer on the Federal Reserve. I'm sure that most Rotarians know that just a few years after Oakland Rotary was formed, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 established the Federal Reserve System as the Bank of the United States to provide the nation with a safer, more flexible, and more stable monetary and financial system. So maybe you can tell us a little bit, what is the Federal Reserve? We've heard that there's a committee that sets interest rates, but what else does the Fed do? And how does the Fed go about making policy decisions?
Absolutely. So let me start back in 1913. And Congress put together the Federal Reserve. We take our work from them. Congress set the Federal Reserve Act and also the priorities that the Federal Reserve should focus on. They included 3 core responsibilities. Monetary policy to promote a stable and healthy economy. That gets materialized.
Can you hear me?
Price stability and full employment.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Prices and the
This is Angela Darby with Allstate Insurance.
conditional on that price stability goal. The second core responsibility is the payment system, making sure we have a safe and sound payment system. So whether that's cash or wire, et cetera, we have the payment rails that make it, that we have responsibility to make sure that when Americans want to have their resources, they can find those resources. And then the third responsibility is, with other regulators, participate in a sound and safe banking system. When you show up at your bank, that bank has your money and has the ability to give you the funds that you've deposited. Those are things that the Federal Reserve was asked to do, and those are the responsibilities we carry out every day. So all the teams across the country, both at the Federal Reserve banks and at the Board of Governors, are all focused on those core responsibilities. We have people working in payments, we have people working in supervision and regulation for the banks, and we have people working in monetary policy. Now, how do we set interest rates? When we go behind those closed doors and we set the interest rate, we're actually having a very robust discussion about how to serve the American people the best with the 2 responsibilities Congress gave us: price stability, full employment. It is a completely apolitical process, and the way we source our information is we have all the data, we have all the history, we have models, we have theory, and then we have you. So we get some of the most accurate and up-to-date information we can find from talking to businesses and communities, and our civic leaders, and finding out how people are responding in the lived economy, the experienced economy. If we simply looked at models and we looked at data and we looked at history, we would have an incomplete picture. And so if you leave with nothing else today, I want to have something in your mind that data is a plural word, it's not a singular word, and it is not just the headlines you see on inflation and unemployment. It's all the information that myself and the other 11 Reserve Bank presidents and everyone at the Board of Governors collects from our businesses and our communities and our civic leaders that tell us how the economy has been, but also where it's headed.
So you mentioned that the 2 congressionally mandated goals are price stability and full employment, and I believe the Fed has a specific goal of 2% in inflation as your inflation goal. So I want to start with the other one, which is the full employment goal. What is the full employment goal? Is there a specific number or something you look at? And can you give us a sense of how you view the current labor market?
Sure. So the full employment goal, unlike the price stability goal, is not a fixed number, because it is about how much the economy can do, how fast the employment can grow, and it's linked in many ways, since we have a dual mandate, to balancing the concerns about inflation, getting it at 2%, with the not cutting off the job expansion that can come if we let the economy run. So if you remember, the easiest way I can describe this is, if you remember back before the pandemic in 2019, we were in the 11th year of the longest expansion in our recorded history in the United States. And the labor market was continuing to be robust. And in 2018, there were calls that maybe we should start bridling the labor market because it could spur inflation. But we chose not to do that at the FOMC. And one of the factors that influenced my choice is our job is not to cut off strong growth in the labor market or strong growth in the economy. Our job is to do those two things collectively. So it's not a fixed number, because a fixed number could leave you thinking that you were already there, when in fact many people could come to work and they could be absorbed. Now, when you what was the second part of your question? Oh, where do I think the labor market is today? I really think the labor market's in solid shape. If you think about what solid shape feels like, it feels like firms can find the workers they need, and workers can find the jobs they want. And it may take a little longer to find a job, and you may not get 6 offers like you were doing in the frothy area of the labor market, but that is the balance that we need to have a sustainable labor market that is consistent with 2% inflation. And when I go out into the communities, no matter where I am, whether it's, I was just in Alaska, Salt Lake City, Boise, Idaho, going to LA later, here in Oakland, what I see is that workers are getting the jobs they want, and they are worried most about the inflation, which we still have to get down to 2%.
Well, so let's talk about the inflation in 2%. Are you going to get there this year?
You know, I can't guarantee we will get there this year. In fact, that's not necessarily my forecast. But what we are doing, and I think this is very good news, is we're really making progress. You know, I think all of us can remember the 7%, and as a central banker, I really remember it because it was on the faces of all the people who I serve, right, in a pained way. It was really, inflation is one of those things that robs people of their well-being. You know, they work hard, they get a nice job, they get a good wage, they're working as hard as they possibly can, and they see their purchasing power eroding or their savings not able to be growing the way they did. So we might not get there this year, but we are making progress, and importantly, we remain resolute to get the job done.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe you could elaborate. There's a connection between dealing with inflation and dealing with employment, and those two things frequently conflict or can conflict. So when you get behind those closed doors and you're talking about it, how do you weigh those? How do you deal with that conflict?
Absolutely. And so in fact, in many points in history, these goals do not conflict, right? We call that in economics, this is not an FOMC term, but it's an economics term, the divine coincidence. Because it means that we have 2 goals, price stability, full employment. We have one tool, the interest rate, and all the communications around the interest rate, but it's one tool. So the divine coincidence is when you can do one thing with your tool, and you can accomplish both goals or support both goals. Now, sometimes, as you mentioned, David, those are in conflict. You know, you have higher inflation than you would like, and you have lower employment than you think is full employment. And then you have this trade-off space. And then you balance the risks. And we have this in our long-run statements, but you're balancing the risk. How do you balance the risks? Well, you're weighing what's the risk to the economy and its longer run, medium run stability if inflation is a little above its target relative to if employment is a little below our target, our full employment goal. And you're balancing those risks, and you're balancing not just today, but over time, because monetary policy works with a lag. It can take, 18 months before an interest rate change fully gets itself through the economy. So we're taking those things into account. And ultimately, it also matters how far away we are from our goals. If we're very far from one goal and very close to another one, well, then we're really trying to bring that one back into balance. So think of it as a scale almost, and we want to accomplish both, but we have to make sure we're getting there in a way that is consistent with that promoting long-term stability in the economy. And I'm always reminded from my own upbringing, I, like so many people in the room probably, I came of age in the late 70s, early 80s, thinking about watching my parents and everyone in our community, it was not just my parents, struggle with high inflation and then struggle with the Volcker disinflation that cost jobs. And so ultimately, that was something that the chairman thought he had to do to get these things re-anchored, but that's what we want to avoid having to do. So the best way to deal with not being in that conflict is to try to do your best before you get there.
So changing the topic a little bit, 2 weeks ago, Moody's downgraded the U.S. credit rating and Treasury bond yields are rising. Should we be concerned? And does it make your job harder, and what are you doing about it?
You know, so the Federal Reserve, and it's worth repeating here, even if many of you know it, the Federal Reserve, we don't make policy, the fiscal policy in the United States, we make monetary policy. We are, by definition, reacting to the economy we have and working towards the economy for tomorrow by accomplishing the price stability and full employment goals that Congress gave us. So I'm usually going to evaluate whether mine is harder or easier. I'm always focused on the same thing, price stability and full employment. And one you can see in bond yields or any other financial variable is that markets are trying to process the uncertainty that we all feel, I think, about how the economy will evolve and what the policy changes will be in the end. And I see that in businesses, et cetera. So when I think about any financial measure right now, whether it's the stock market or bond yields, et cetera, I recognize that they're going to have day-to-day or even week-to-week fluctuations, but what are the fundamentals? And I go back to the following thing. Right now, policy, monetary policy, is in what I think of as a good place. It's where it needs to be to continue to bring inflation down, and the economy's in a good place. We have declining inflation, you know, it's gradual, but it's coming down, and we have good growth and solid labor market. Those are the things that mean we have a reasonably good economy that has its footing under it. So even with the uncertainty, I think we can look back and say, and with the uncertainty about financial markers, and that is, you know, we're in a good place right now. And that's what financial markets ultimately come back to. And that's why you see the things fluctuate, but they come back to something that seems fairly reasonable.
So you mentioned uncertainty, and we live in a time when there's rarely economic news. Last week, for example, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the One Big Beautiful Bill. The Congress, which Congressional Budget Office estimates will increase the federal deficit by $2.3 trillion over the next decade. President Trump threatened 50% tariffs on EU and 25% tariffs on our Apple iPhones. And then, of course, yesterday, the Federal Trade Court blocked many of the tariffs. And we've had dramatic policy changes in immigration policy and changes in deregulation policy, or a move to deregulation. So how do you deal with these many moving parts, and how do they impact what you're doing?
And it's a great question. I start always with this. So I started at the Fed in 1996. So I've lived through, in my role as an economist working for the Fed and now as president, many of the fluctuations, changes in administration, changes in the economy. And one thing I know about administrations as they change, and our elected officials are different, and they have different agendas, is that they all come in, you can look back in time, they all come in with a slate of things that they would like to do, proposals. And those proposals, I have to look at three things. First, how do those proposals get augmented, changed, modified as they work through the governance of our country, either with Congress or voters or the legal system, et cetera. So that's thing one. Second is, what is the end state then? And what then is the scope, magnitude, and timing of that end state? And the third thing is, what's the net impact? So I would say at this point, we don't know any of those things yet, right? Because the proposals are there, and there's negotiations on trade, and Congress is negotiating how they think of things on a variety of other policies. And we're working through those because deregulation and tax relief is usually a net positive for growth. Of course, immigration is, we don't know. It depends on whether those immigrants need jobs, we need them for the workforce, or the workforce is sufficient in the domestic workforce. And then on tariffs, the tariffs are, you have to ask yourself, how high are they? What's the magnitude? What's the scope? And what's the timing? They're usually not a light switch, and you can see even now they're being negotiated and they're changing over time. So it would be premature to speculate how any of this will work out. So what we do instead as Reserve Bank presidents and as the Federal Reserve System more generally is we ask businesses. So I spent a lot of time since the beginning of the year asking businesses, what are you doing? And here's what I'm hearing. Well, we're very uncertain, and we don't like uncertainty. No business likes uncertainty. The second thing, though, is that I asked them is, what are you doing in terms of your plans? Oh, we're just continuing to go. If we had a development that we were going to do or a business outreach, we're going to do that. In all of the cities I went to that I named, there are cranes everywhere. Boise, Idaho, cranes are dominating the skyline. They are continuing to build. What's different is if you don't take the tail of the risk distribution on your projects. If you thought you wanted to open 50 stores, you might open 30 stores, but that's not the same as putting pencils down. That's not like, we're not going to plan, we're not going to build. This is, just a more moderate growth path. And honestly, that's probably what we would have seen some of anyway as the economy slows and businesses reassess. So what I hear, the net is businesses are still waiting to see. And as they wait to see, we wait to see, because we have policy in a good place for the economy we have, and we have plenty of opportunity then in time to make decisions as the economy evolves.
So I'm going to change the subject a little bit here. According to a 2022 Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis study, there's been some improvement in the wealth gap between 2019 and 2022, but the gap still remains large. 2% of the population owns nearly half of the wealth in the United States. 7.5% of the population have more debt than assets. Gaps between white families and Black and Hispanic families remain large. Gaps between younger and older families are at an all-time high, and middle-aged family wealth peaked in 2007. What's the Fed's role with respect to the wealth gap, and what action is it taking?
So this is where, as a central banker, you realize how limited you are. Congress purposefully limited us to those goals that I told you, price stability, full employment. So we don't have a role or a tool. We have one tool, the interest rate, and we have two goals. So we don't have a role or a tool in the wealth gap, the income gap, the wage gap. But here's what we learned by looking at history, and this is something I've studied throughout my career, is that a durable expansion actually closes gaps. So what the Fed is really doing is creating, by following congressional mandates for us, creating a strong and stable economy through price stability and full employment, is we can help with the conditions that allow the elected officials, businesses, communities to help close those gaps. 2019, the end of that expansion that only ended with a global pandemic, the remarkable thing about that expansion was it started to lift so many boats. And as it lifted so many boats, gaps closed. So the idea that I have as I think about what our job is fulfilling the congressionally mandated goals of those price stability and full employment, and that lays the foundation and the conditions for these other things to happen. That's ultimately what I'm doing every day.
So my final question before we open it up to audience question is to ask you to look into your crystal ball. Hope you brought it with you today. What's your current outlook for the economy, both the broader U.S. economy and also for California and the Bay Area?
Sure. So let me start with the U.S., as you asked. So, what I see when I go out is a general sense of cautious optimism. Yes, we're sitting with considerable uncertainty right now, but we saw after the pandemic, Americans want to work, they want to spend, they want to be out, and so I still see that. And when I'm talking to business leaders, they understand they have challenges, but they're not just going in the room and sitting on the sidelines. They're active. I mean, look at all of you. You're here. It's one of the reasons I love going out on. If you sit in your office, you can often think and use economic models. You can often think the picture is gloomy. But when you go out in the communities and you talk to people, you see that sense that we can go forward and we can do things. So my outlook is that we'll continue to bring inflation down over time. We'll continue to have a solid labor market it's going to be slowing in all likelihood, but it will be solid, and that we'll ultimately be able to manage the policy changes as needed so that we can support that development. Of course, things can happen. The uncertainty we have can be resolved in a way that doesn't support that. But so today, from where I sit, I see those positive developments occurring. On the California and Bay Area, I was remembering to one of my younger team members at the San Francisco Fed that one of my first jobs when I came was to think about whether the Bay Area was really going to be important anymore. Because as you know, Austin, Texas, and Seattle and other, Portland, Oregon came up, we would be eliminated as a center for innovation and other activities. And I remember looking out my window and seeing the Bay and seeing the Golden Gate Bridge and seeing all the people and how entrepreneurial they were in the Bay Area. And I'm living in Oakland and I'm like, that's not going to happen. And so I have the same spirit now. Yes, the pandemic hit us hard in the Bay Area, and I think no matter where you live, you felt it. But there's activity coming, and people have that entrepreneurial spirit. We live in a beautiful place with highly skilled and educated workforce, and people want to participate. And so I'm bullish on California and on the Bay Area, because ultimately we can meet our challenges and we move forward. And I think the Oakland Rotary, from what I heard in your business meeting, you're at the forefront of that for our community. So thank you.
We're going to take some questions. We'll start with you, Mac. I'm going to hold the mic.
First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Daly, for coming and sharing your insights with us. It is very much appreciated. This question connects to the ongoing debate about voting rights legislation and its potential impact on civic and economic engagement. Considering recent legislative efforts, you know what I'm saying, like the SAVE Act and the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, how does the Fed view the relationship between civic engagement, voting rights, and economic participation?
So, I'm sorry I always have to repeat this, but it's useful to know that I have no role as a Federal Reserve official, have no role in the civic or elected or the voting rights, et cetera. Why that's so important that I don't comment on those things is because our independence as a Federal Reserve making monetary policy is essential. And our independence is best kept by keeping within our lanes, if you will, within the congressionally mandated goals that Congress gave us. So that's how I'll do that part. The thing that I do know is that when people participate economically, they tend to participate civically. And so the role that I can play, even in this way, is to do my job, to actually achieve full employment and price stability and have people be in the community. If your bandwidth is constantly taken worrying about how you're going to feed your family or support your communities, then I think you have little time for other things. But if we support the economy in the way that we've been asked to, then it allows for these things to be taken. So thank you for your question, and it is a good reminder for all of us that our independence is best kept by staying on the things that we've been asked to do by Congress.
Mary Jiang, looks like she's got the mic.
Yes, hi. Yes, my name is Mary Jiang, so we share the same name together. I also want to share with you that in the 1980s, as a CPA, I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank at their old location in Sampson.
Oh, yes.
And then they moved to Market Street, and I was there also. It was a great place to work. Okay, I have a question. So you mentioned about the independence of the Fed. Now, recently we heard that the Trump administration is attacking the independence of Chairman Jerome Powell. How's he reacting to this?
So we react, the chair now, Chair Powell, all previous chairs. It's not the first time that administrations have asked the Federal Reserve to move in a way that they would like, but that's just part of the job. So, as a central banker, you're tasked, in the United States, we're tasked with full employment and price stability, and we're accountable to Congress, but also to the American people. And so when I go to work and I think about what I'm doing, that sign that we put up it's real. Our work serves every American and countless global citizens. And that's what Chair Powell, who I know well, that's his idea space. And so it was announced today that he met with the president and repeated those things. We will do what's right, given our congressionally mandated goals to achieve price stability and full employment. I guess if ultimately, Mary, I will say that if you're in central banking, you really have to know your responsibilities and stick with those and be resolute, because if we don't, then Americans suffer.
Hi, my name is Alita Scola, and I have a small frame shop on Grand Avenue in Oakland. If you don't have a framer, by the way, I'm doing a good job. At any rate, what I'm trying to figure out is we import things from Italy and from other countries, and I know that we've had just the last month was the worst month, I think, in 45-year history. And I think people are very concerned about what's going to happen. Is there something that you can help me with in how I can communicate with my clients about their fears?
So I think one of the things that's been, one of the things I can tell you is that I was looking back on this too, mostly to help younger people who are working for us. So I started in '96, so I've lived through the dot-com, I've lived through the East Asian financial crisis, 9/11 at the Fed, 9/11, the global financial crisis, that was a devastating period of time, and then the global pandemic. And what I learned in all of those is that talking to your clients, talking to our people, telling them what you're thinking and what you're struggling with actually really helps. So if your clients or anyone, if your communities think you're just doing it to them, then it's much different than if you think this is what our margins are, this is where we are. And I saw that in the pandemic. In the pandemic, I would go around and take pictures of the price list, right? And the prices were just being, as inflation started to rise, they were just crossing them out and writing in magic marker, then crossing them out again and writing in magic marker because the prices were escalating so quickly. And it was really hard on small businesses in particular because they felt like they were passing something along to their customers who probably didn't have the ability to do it, but I think that conversation helped. It's a time for us to, as humans, be in more conversation because ultimately we're all in this uncertainty together, but I also think it's important to realize that we have the fundamentals in a good place. Our economy is in solid shape and inflation's thankfully going down, so we were going to be getting into a better place going forward.
Last question, Michelle.
Hi, thank you. I'm Michelle Himmelberg, and I may be asking you to put more of your academic hat on with this one, but the Fed's metrics, which you've explained so well, have been in place for more than a century. Is it time to revise those, change those mandates?
I don't think it's a good time to change the mandates. I actually think the mandates are a very valuable piece. Congress gave them, so it's not my role to change them. That would be Congress's role. But I have to say that ultimately, when I go out in the communities and talk to people about what we do, they care about jobs and they care about inflation. And so us being tasked with the job of, whether it's a challenging one or an easier one, tasked with the job of putting both of those into balance is a good thing. Now on the inflation target, for instance, 2%, we put that in place as a target in 2012, and ultimately we review our framework for how we execute on that every 5 years. We're in the middle of a framework review right now. You might hear about that if you read the news. We are actively working on these issues, and we'll announce a new framework, which is going to come out sometime this year, as the chair has said. But the mandates I really believe in, and I continue to believe in our 2% inflation target.
So, President Daly, thank you for your time, for your insight. I really appreciate it. Looks like you're going to get a standing ovation, so I'm not the only one who appreciates it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
President Daly, we don't give up standing ovations very often, so you obviously were very well received. Thank you for coming. And also, even though I know you're not allowed to accept speaker gifts, I'll just remind everybody that part of the Rotary Foundation's legacy is we're trying to wipe out polio off the face of the earth. And so generally we give a gift. And how far are we away from curing polio off the face of the planet? We're this close. I'd like to welcome our new members at the back of the room. Everybody, please say hello to them. I want to honor and thank Mac for sharing Memorial Day thoughts and our incredible dedication to the people we have lost that have served this country. And wow, what a big day. We're always end on time, and I'm carrying on just because it was worth it to give you some extra time and great questions. Thank you for all everybody did to provide this terrific lunch and everything it took to pull this off. Welcome from Fukuoka, and next week we have
Another fabulous speaker on a very different topic, the business and pleasure of comic book collecting. Ted Dang will be our speaker. It should be a lot of fun. Come back right here in the ballroom June 5th for the business and pleasure of comic books.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.